Well, I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Hi, I'm Marla Goldberg, creator and host of Guided Spirit Conversations podcast. And I'm so excited to bring this show going, get the show going. You can see I'm so excited I can't even speak well. But before I do, to those of you who are going to be dealing with these storms, I don't know if you've heard my announcements, please, please, please be careful. Please bring the supplies that you need in your car if, God forbid, something should happen, so you stay warm, you stay hydrated, and you have food to eat. So blanket, can with a candle and matches or a lighter, water, and some snacks. If you travel with your animals, please make sure they're accommodated as well. And don't be speedy on the roads because this is when they get really super slick. So please be careful. Okay, so I am happy, quote unquote, to have this next guest with us, Teresa Greco. Teresa is a happiness life coach, and she is the host of a weekly internet TV show called The Steps to Happiness Show with Teresa Greco. Teresa is a 3-time best-selling author, an educator, and educational technologies consultant with a master's degree from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. She is the editor and senior writer at she's not an overachiever at all, not one, but 2 Canadian lifestyle magazines. And she's also a writer for an international magazine. In addition, Teresa is a coach and Reiki Master. She also is a public speaker and holds workshops and mentors others about embracing, honoring, loving, celebrating their true, authentic and self and achieving their own personal happiness and fulfillment. Welcome, Teresa. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm so excited to be here today.
I am so happy to have you here because as a happiness coach, there's so many misnomers about happiness. But before we get into the misnomers, let's talk about your journey from where you were to how you got started on this path to be the happiness life coach.
Thank you. Well, it was the milestone of approaching 40 that had me take a step back and really reevaluate my life, where I asked myself some pretty important questions, such as, is this all there is to life? Can I imagine living the same life for the next 40 years? Am I happy living the life that I am living? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel like I'm living my purpose? And so it was in the asking of those that I realized that although my life looked perfect on the outside, that my life checked off all the boxes that society, culture, family, religion tell you need in order to have a happy life, I did not feel happy and fulfilled. That I have a beautiful, fulfilling career. I'm an educator, educational technologies consultant, family, our own home, vacations a year, cars in the driveway, lots of beautiful material things. So if I had achieved all of that, how is it that I felt unhappy? I felt that there was something missing. There was a void within me that it didn't matter what I did, how much more education I got, how many more certificates, diplomas, degrees, job experience I got. I just couldn't fill this sense of that something was missing. And I was on what is known as the satisfaction treadmill, where you set your goals and then you achieve them and then you feel good for a little bit. And then again, you set your goal a little bit higher and then you work towards that and you feel good again for only a little bit, but then you're like, now what? And so you're on this treadmill of never really feeling happy and fulfilled. And it's because happiness is more than how we as society talk about it.
You know, it's so true. But I have a number of questions, but one of my first questions is, did you Did your husband know how unsatisfied you were within yourself? I mean, within the family, you might have felt great satisfaction, but the internal dissatisfaction, was he aware of that? And did he react to that?
Thank you so much for that question, because I suffered in silence for a very long time, for fear of judgment, for fear of rejection, that I didn't talk to anybody about how I was feeling, because if I told someone, I feared that I'd get the reaction, Teresa, what do you have to complain about? Your life looks perfect. And so I didn't talk about it, and I realize now as well in that I was living my life with many different masks, that I was living my life according to external expectations for who I needed to be, how I needed to please other people. So nobody knew, because I was the perfect wife, perfect daughter in law, perfect friend, perfect employee, perfect mom, perfect lots of different things, trying to fill all external expectations. That the truth was that I had lost myself in the living of my life, that I didn't even know who I was, because I was wearing all of those masks. And so, no, nobody knew, because I was fulfilling those expectations and lost on the inside, not knowing, like, how does someone get to 40 and not know who they are?
Well, many people do for a number of reasons. I know, which is a projection we could talk about, but I keep hearing like perfectionist gone wild because you're so busy filling everybody else's hole, so to speak, to make it as perfect of an experience for them,
Mhm.
that you sort of forgot about yourself in the sense. And that's not saying you didn't go shopping and you didn't have the material things, but the things that are truly sustainable, the light being inside of you was saying, there's got to be more than this because I'm missing out somewhere, but I don't know where.
Yes, thank you. And although I grew up religious, I grew up Catholic and always connected to God my entire life. But religion teaches you that God is outside of you. And that in order, I had priests tell me that in order for me to really connect with God or with Jesus, I needed to go to church. That if I said, well, if my parents, they can't bring me to church that Sunday, if I pray at home, is that okay? No, it's not the same, because God is at church. And so it was so in the asking of those questions, I actually went to a medium and I said, listen, like, I have a stack of books on my nightstand with me trying to hear from God my entire life, that I had heard of other people seeing spirit, hearing from spirit. And I wanted that my entire life. I wanted that. And so I went to a medium and she said to me, spirit is telling me you need to meditate. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I was never taught what meditation was. And I'm
Right.
happy now to know that it's such a buzzword. But this is like just a little over 10 years ago when as I said, I didn't know what to do. Luckily for me, there was a meditation center close by my home. I reached out to them and I said, listen, spirit is telling me to meditate. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do it. And they said, if you want to come, we'll help you to get started. And so it was that experience that allowed me to connect with my spiritual self that I was never taught to how to. And many of us are not taught to connect with our spiritual self. It's like that part doesn't exist. And although now we're starting to talk about it more, where it doesn't seem so weird and woo woo, my family thought I was part of a cult. They're like, Teresa, you need to stop what you're doing. And all I was doing was meditating and going inward and connecting, as I said, with a part of myself that I was never taught to connect with. That we are taught to pray, to speak outward to God, but never to quiet ourselves enough so that the spirit, including our own, can speak to us.
I love that. And it's so true. And I think about what I do, and I do both. I do the outward speaking, I pray out loud. I've said this a zillion times, but I go inside because it's almost like when you're praying outside, you're taking the steps and you're saying to spirit, I'm grateful for you. I acknowledge all you do for me. But when you go inside, that's when those burning questions, I got the burning questions, like, how do I do this? What's going on? How do I handle this? I need guidance with that. And that's when you get that. It's sort of like your one-on-one time with spirit.
Yes, I love that. And they will tell you at the center that I went monthly and I cried every single time I went for a month. That first experience was like literally it was like spirit was like, oh, that it had been trying to speak to me my entire life. And that I didn't know that all I needed to do was quiet my mind and sit in stillness long enough to actually hear it speak to me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and I had resentment towards my religion to say, why are you doing this? Why are you keeping spirit outside? And we know why. Religion, education, government, lots of different systems keep spirit away from us, because within that part is where our superpowers reside, right? Our gifts, our talents, our courage, our power, all of that resides within our spiritual self. And so of course they don't want us knowing how powerful we are.
God forbid we wouldn't be malleable to what they do to manipulate us.
Yes.
And it's so true. And when you're talking about this, and apparently The Wizard of Oz has been on my mind a great deal the last 2 days. I personally feel that The Wizard of Oz is one of the most spiritual movies that was made, and only recently realized how much. But it goes to where Glinda says to Dorothy with the ruby slippers, just click your heels together 3 times and say, and you'll get home. No place like home, and you'll get home. But the power, she says, the power's been with you the whole time. And all those attributes about having personal power are within all of us. And I just wish people would stop, the educators, the people who put out the information. I wish they would truly stop, scaring people and telling them that they don't have power, because we're all such powerful beings. And we can change.
Yes, made in the likeness of our creator, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it God, spirit, universe, the divine source, energy, doesn't matter what you want to call it or what each religion calls it, right? Each religion has a different name for that, which is what is, and it's all the same thing. They're all signposts, all pointing into the same direction, which is coming home to who we really are. And so that's exactly what you're just talking about with the movie, coming home to who we are.
I love that. Thank you for that. So let's talk about next steps. So you realized you were not happy. You started to meditate. You learned how to meditate. You went inside. You got some guidance. And how did that bring you to a place to start learning and opening up to your own internal happiness?
So when I discovered that was a part of myself that I hadn't been tapping into, it opened a whole new world. That it's there that I discovered that in our spiritual self, that part of us is always loving, at peace, and happy. That the love that I had been searching for outside of me my entire life, in everyone around me, looking for love, now recognizing that I was love already, that there was unconditional love that was inside me that I had never been tapping into. And now the love that's outside is just always a cherry on top. Whenever I might feel like I'm not being loved on the outside, all I need, that is just an indication that now I know the outside is always just a mirror and a reflection for what I need to be doing for myself, that I need to connect to that place within me that is always loving. Same thing with my happiness, that I recognize that we are conditioned to believe that happiness is outside of us in our possessions, positions, titles, degrees, relationships, and experiences. There's a whole commercialism around happiness being outside in any of those things, that only when we find that perfect person will we be happy. Only when I get to that, get that position at work will I be happy. Only when do I get to that destination will I be happy. Only when I buy that sports car, that designer bag, will I be happy. Only when I achieve that degree will I be happy. Lots of different things that our happiness is placed outside in all of those different areas. But meanwhile, our spiritual self is always happy. And you feel that immediately when you go inside. There is an internal bliss that rests within us that we can tap into at any time. And there's peace there as well. So our essential nature, our original nature is love, peace, and happiness. We are all of those things that when we are born into this world as children, we come into the world embodying that. But then the world gets its little claws into us and then has us feeling a whole host of other emotions. So it is, as you were saying, it's about coming home to who we really are, coming back to that original nature, that original state of love, peace, and happiness that is always within us to feel.
There are so many unhappy people, so many unhappy people, and they have no idea where to turn, who to turn to, where to turn to. What guidance would you give them as to where to start on a happiness trajectory? Where do they start learning to heal, or how do they start learning to heal? And then, start working on I'll call it the happiness quotient.
Yes, yes. So I have a happiness quotient actually, and so what I just to tie in. So for me, the happiness quotient is like happiness on a scale, let's say, and that this is why it's important for us to work on connecting with that place within us that is happy, because we carry baggage, let's say, on one side of the scale, our trauma, our rejection, our upset, our past, our shame, our guilt, our sin, all of that on this side. And then on the other side is our happiness. Now, when we deal with the skeletons in the closet, when we deal with that turmoil and that dark, shadowy stuff, when we deal with that side of the scale becomes lighter. And then this side, our happiness quotient also increases in that it is important for us to do the work, because the more we lessen the weight on this side, the happier we get. And I've realized that on my happiness journey for over 10 years, that the more I do the work, the happier I become. And that people like, oh, are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. But do you know that you could be happier if you dealt with the guck that's on the other side of the scale?
It's true, and it brings you sustainable happiness. This is what I just heard.
Yes.
Sustainable happiness. And so many people are afraid of dealing with the stuff, the
Mhm.
wounds, the pain. They don't want to feel it again. They don't want to be reminded. They keep wanting to brush it under the rug. So their rug has a nice big hump like a camel.
Yes, I always think of it, in the cartoons or in some of the older movies, that the maybe that homeless guy had a sack on a stick, a
Yeah.
bindle, I believe it's called, and he's going around with this sack. It's like that. It's like that monkey on your back, that bindle that you carry around with you that you don't want to deal with, but it is weighing you down. And until we start to unpack it, but as you said, people are scared to go there because they're not leaning on their spiritual self enough, in that part of us is whole, healed, and complete, that we are always perfect exactly as we are, and that when we lean on that part, we are loved, we are nurtured, and that very gently the universe brings us along and allows us to look at those shadows in this very beautiful and gentle way. In that when we again lean on our spiritual self, it's like when we choose to let go and forgive, it is released on an energetic level that we can't even understand because we can't see the energy. But when we choose to let go and to forgive, it's like, shh, it's gone, and it has taken that weight away. It has taken, it could be lifetimes and years of this energy that we've been carrying with us, that as soon as we choose to look at it, it's like it's gone. And you feel lighter and happier and more at peace and more loving. So it's just like, I just want more of this.
Well,
So it's like,
yeah,
bring on the work.
it's like chocolate, right? It's like it's so yummy. Sometimes you just can't stop eating it. That's like that's what I'm getting for the happiness. That's my exchange. And you've got the Steps to Happiness 8-week group coaching program. How do you implement what we're talking about? Or is it implemented? I'm going to assume it is, but in the program. And how, what did the 8 weeks entail?
Yes, thank you. So it is really about loving and connecting and nurturing all aspects of ourself, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. And that when I connected to that place, it allowed me to realize all the different areas in which I was not loving myself the way that I needed to. That I realized that on a psychological level, on mental level, I was not loving myself at all. I was my worst critic, self-sabotaging, limiting myself in a whole bunch of ways. That our mindset is only one component of us, but it is a huge component in that our thoughts then determine our emotions, and which then determine our actions, which then determines our habits and results that we see in the world. And so it is so important that we start to become very consciously aware of how our mental self is functioning. And that if we don't wake up to the beliefs and the thoughts and the paradigms and the programming and the conditioning that we have been living under our entire life, and we begin to then rewire and reprogram the brain by creating a new story for ourselves, then we can start to really step into the life that we were meant to really live and to become the
True.
people we were really meant to be.
True. What you're talking about is where your thoughts go, energy flows. So you have to be careful about those thoughts. I mean, to just put it in a capsule, and so when people are just starting to become aware of their thoughts, I know what I guide my people to do, my audience and clients, etc. What do you tell your audience and clients to do when they're dealing with those limiting beliefs and faulty thoughts?
So we have a 5% margin, literally, to become conscious aware. Many of us are living on autopilot. Joe Dispenza says that by the time we reach 35, that computer program is so deeply ingrained within us that we are living like that on autopilot, not even aware. And that 95% of the thoughts that we have every day are the ones from the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that, that our brain as an organ just recycles the same thoughts. And so it leaves us 5% to become consciously aware of when a thought comes up, to be mindful. So that's one of the practices that I talk about, to be mindful in that you stop and you think about and reflect on the type of thought that you just had, that then created this emotional response within you that didn't make you feel good. That our negative emotions are, well, I say that happiness is a compass, but all of our emotions are a compass that are there to alert us whether we are in alignment with the truth of who we really are. And so our thoughts direct so much of those emotions that we can start to feel resentful towards people, we can feel angry, we can feel sad, we can feel lots of different things. But those emotions are not the truth of who we are. The truth is love, peace, and happiness. And so we have to think, well, what did I just think about myself? And my thoughts were, I'm never pretty enough. I'm never skinny enough. I'm never smart enough. I'm never athletic enough. I'm not enough of a lot of different things. And those were all things that were said to me growing up, part of that programming from well-meaning people around me, parents, religious leaders, teachers, friends, colleagues, that said limiting things to me, that as
Yes.
children, as blank slates, we just take it all in. We're like, well, of course, they're adults, they know. And so that becomes so much of our life story, and that we have to think about, what are we saying to ourselves all day long? What kind of tapes are you replaying in your mind that's telling you you're a loser, that's telling you that you're not smart, that you're never going to be able to achieve that? Lots of different things. So we have to become aware of what those thoughts are, so that then we can replace them with ones that serve us. And that's where positive affirmations come into play, because we can't just say, oh, well, that wasn't a nice thing I said to myself. No, we have to literally replace that thought with one that is really the truth of who we are. So it's not true that I'm not pretty and smart. I am beautiful. I am intelligent and smart. And repeating those over and over and over and over, just as we have been repeating the negative things to ourselves our whole life, we need to repeat, repeat, and repeat. Because people say positive affirmations don't work, but they do when we repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. That at first you may not believe them, but with enough repetition, you do.
Well, it's like anything. It's like training your brain for anything, or training a puppy. It's consistency and continuity, and you've got to just continue to keep going at it. Because if you just say it once, it's my analogy. It's like taking a shower, never showering again. It's not what you do. You shower, hopefully, once a day. Not everybody may have the ability to do so, but brushing your teeth might be another way of looking at it. You don't just brush your teeth once and never brush it a day. You brush your teeth once, twice, three times, and for those who are really fanatical, four, five, and six. But you're constantly doing it, and that's what the affirmations do, to sort of rebuild a neurological or connection between your brain and your self-belief.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, creating those new neural pathways that we know with the science of neuroplasticity, that's exactly true. That, there's this belief that says, or the saying that goes, you can't teach old dog new tricks. That's not true. We now know science that we can teach old dogs new tricks, in the sense that we can reprogram the mind with beliefs about ourselves that are the truth. And we know they are the truth because when we say them to ourselves, they feel good. That our emotional self is always guiding us towards the life we really came here to live. And that I believe depression and sadness on a really deep, deep soul level is that we're not living the life we really came here to live. That we may be living a life where there's lots of shoulds and have tos. And I know, because I was there, and still I feel like a lot of times I'm like, oh, I have to do this and I should do that. But my life was all have tos and shoulds. That, well, I should take over the family business because it's been in the family for so long. Or I should, become a doctor because that's what my parents want me to do. They came here to this new country. They've worked so hard. I really owe it to them. All of this. But then we go around unhappy. And so we really need to look at our emotions, because they are there to guide us, instead of using our mind to rationalize ourselves out of things that we really don't want to do. So, for example, if you don't feel happy at your job because your boss is demeaning, your coworkers are negative and toxic, or your personal relationships also feel negative and toxic, that emotional self is saying, maybe you should look for a different job. But then our mind says, no, it's okay because I make a lot of money and so I should keep going there. Or no, it's okay because, they're just going through a rough patch. So I'm just going to keep taking this verbal and emotional abuse from this person, instead of loving, honoring, and respecting ourselves first by saying, no, I'm not going to continue to, take whatever's going on, and using our mind in that case to be the slave to our heart and not the other way around. So we should be living our life by allowing our emotional self to guide us, and then using our mind to figure out how it's going to make that stuff happen for us.
And how I work with my people is I say, figure out what makes your heart sing.
Mhm.
What brings you joy? And then don't leave your job. But in the meantime, and this is what the coach does, right?
Mhm.
You want to figure out what it is that will make you happy. Because if what you're doing, makes your heart sing, then you're never working a day in your life. That old adage, you are creating for others, you're creating for yourself the most joyous foundation that one can do for themselves. How do you
Yes.
feel?
Yes, and then we know we're on purpose. That I don't believe that we came here. I thought, oh, maybe I'm not living, my one true life purpose that I came here to live. And I now know that it's not, we don't have just one purpose, that it's more about living a life that's on purpose, which means that in every moment we check in with ourselves and we say, how do I feel right now when I'm participating in this activity, when I'm hanging out with these people, when I'm in this particular environment? How do I feel? And if you feel good, you're on purpose, you're on path, you're living the life that you came here to live, doing whatever that might be. And so, Marla, I want to address something that you said about figuring out what those activities are that make you happy. Now, this is a very important distinction because this is what happened during the pandemic, that many things were taken away from people,
Yeah.
activities, let's say, and locations and people that they attributed their happiness to. So, as I said, we think that happiness is found in our possessions, positions, titles, degrees, relationships, and experiences. That, oh no, how do you expect me to be happy if I can't go to the sports games and the concerts? How do you expect me to be happy if I can't go to the patio and I can't travel? How do you expect me to be happy if I can't hang out with certain people? Well, my happiness bubble goes everywhere I go because my happiness resides inside of me. Now, these external things, so I talk about them with respect to having a happiness toolkit. So the things that are in our happiness toolkit, as you said, what type of things make you happy? But it is not the things that make you happy. Now, and my conversations with spirit are the ones that told me this. Because, well, how do you expect people to be happy? Because the truth is, all those activities are doing is providing a vehicle for you to connect to a place inside of you that is always happy. So when you go and you're on the patio having a lovely lunch with friends, you are completely present and in the moment. And that is where happiness is found because we're not living in the past thinking about our problems, nor thinking about the future and worrying and doubting about, oh no, what could come next. We are here. When we're at the concert, when we're at the hockey game, we are like, woo, so in the moment and present that it's not the hockey game that's providing that happiness for you, is that has become a vehicle to help you to find that place inside of you that is always loving, at peace, and happy. So there is a huge distinction with what we need to realize so that we no longer attribute our happiness to external things, but rather those things are a vehicle to help you to connect to a place in you that is always happy.
And you have the 5 top steps to happiness. Let's talk about the 5 top steps because I think it ties in with what you've just said completely.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. Because these are some of the vehicles, and I call them my top five because I feel like for me, these are them. Although everyone is unique and personal, right? So in my coaching practice, we really talk about what are those steps that you feel that when you participate in them or when you hang out with those certain people that make you feel so good because the conversation is amazing and their energy is so good and all of that we need to check in. And so one of those practices is mindfulness, that it is in any moment to attune all of our senses to the gift that the present moment is providing us. Now, for example, when we eat, a lot of people are not present. They are eating their food and they are on their phone, they are watching TV, they're like streaming something on their computer, whatever, they're completely distracted. They are not looking at their food with their eyes and looking at the beautiful colors in their food. They're not there feeling the texture of the food in their mouth or on their tongue or between their teeth. They're not smelling it with their nose. They're not listening to maybe the crunch of what it is that you're eating. Is that if we in any moment stop and really think about what we're doing, like this conversation right now for me is so good. And it's like I am completely present here and it is filling me up in a miraculous way, because they're all miracles really. And that when you are connected to the present moment and connected to yourself in this true and authentic way, there is this joy that comes that it takes over. You feel it all over. And so mindfulness is one of those, but we often don't. As I said, we're on autopilot, we're going here, shuffling there, and we don't stop throughout the day to check in with ourselves and say, am I feeling tight? Are my shoulders up at my ears? Am I feeling frustrated, angry? Do I need to maybe do some breath work, for example, to just, take me out of this fight or flight response that's going on? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling worried? All of that, we should be stopping and realigning with some of those practices we know that help us to do that. So that's one of my top steps.
And I know you've got meditation, which
Yes.
we've talked about. We've touched on that. Self-love and gratitude. Let's start with gratitude first.
Mm-hmm.
How does gratitude lead someone to happiness?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So research has shown that it's directly correlated with happiness, which means the more grateful we are, the more happy we feel. Now, I once heard this where they said, well, happy people automatically have lots to be grateful for because they're happy and things are going well. And it's like, no, actually, we practice gratitude first and then we feel happy. That it is in the process of looking for all the good things that are happening around you and within you all the time, and that in doing that, it immediately raises your vibration. So gratitude is yes, correct, directly correlated with happiness, but also with love. And that love is one of the highest vibrational emotions that we feel. And gratitude is the same way. So in those moments when we are feeling frustrated, when we're feeling sad, when we're feeling any of those things, that is a cue that we should in that moment start to. So one of the things I suggest is maybe have a picture on your phone that as soon as you look at that picture, or a picture in your wallet, something that you can look to, that you've chosen that image, because as soon as you look at it, right away you're like, oh my God, my son, and he looks so cute, and oh, look at my dog, and oh, look at my dog. And I remember that trip, it was so good that as soon as you start to think about the happiness that you felt in that moment, all of a sudden these low vibrational emotions like that, like the anger, the frustration, the resentment, all of that, right away it starts to rise, and we start to feel better immediately. So gratitude is not just, oh, let's practice it in the morning or let's practice it at night. It is really about having it become a habit where you just do it all day long. And that's me with everything. The moment I wake up, I'm like, I'm here to have another day to live. Thank God. Thank God.
Exactly. And the other thing too is people go, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. Don't look at what you don't have. Let's look at what you do have. So you may not have all the money in the bank that you might want, but do you have a roof over your head? Do you have clothes on your back? Do you have food? Any kind of food. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but because the more you're grateful for what it is, your toothbrush, your blanket, where you sleep, all of those little things, they all add up, and it's a magnet, right? So the more you put out the gratitude for these things, the more other positive things will come to you, and the shift will stop and the manifestation will start.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. That it's like this sign to the universe that says, oh, you like all those? Okay. And then the law of attraction just brings more of it and more of it to you. But we have to be aware of it instead of focusing on the negative. And we do have a negativity bias that science shows that 80% of our thoughts are negative. So, what happens at work there at the water cooler, people talking bad about each other and their boss. And I'm an educator. It was talking about the kids and the parents and the administrators. And I'm like, why are you focusing on where was the good that happened today? And if we could find at least 3 things, that would be on a minimal, but at
Yep.
least 3 things. And Marla, to be honest, all you have to do is turn on the news in order for you to be grateful for your life. Because when I turn on the news, there was a point where I didn't want to even turn it on because it was just not making me feel good. But now I realize that the news is actually part of my gratitude. That negative story after negative story after negative story is like, oh, thank God that didn't happen to me. Thank God my children are safe at home. Thank God we're not sick. Thank God, we didn't have an earthquake here. Thank God that we're not living in a tent. Thank God. It's over and over and over.
Yeah.
It is the opportunity for us to stop and to really look at all the good things, because there are awful things that are happening. And thank goodness that you're not going through that.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm in 100% agreement with you. I need to take a sidestep because it's charity shout out time, which is one of my favorite moments in the show, because it's a time when we get to acknowledge your charity, something that you're passionate about, a not-for-profit. And so let's talk about yours, which is Canadian Cancer Society. So let's talk about it and ask for what you want and need and desire from your audience now. This is an opportunity.
Oh, thank you. So I'm sure we all know somebody in our circles that has been unfortunately affected by cancer. And, it's unfortunate that apparently they could come up with a vaccine in just a couple months, but cures to cancer they haven't been able to figure out. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, a lot of people that have cancer, their treatments were put on hold, which was, or even their, detection treatments were all put on hold, which is so unfortunate. And so, yes, I chose, my grandmother also died, my best friend also. So lots of, people close to me that have been
You've
affected
been
by the
touched,
disease. Yeah. And so, yes, that's why I chose this charity.
which, any cancer charity to me, I mean, there's so many viable, worthy charities.
Mhm.
But yeah, cancer, though it's gotten better in terms of what they've researched and what they're putting together, remedies for, it's still happening. And it's happening because, in my opinion, here we are. I don't know if you have this as much in Canada as we do in the United States with the GMOs and the hormones in the food that they give. And I do believe that so many people have issues because of that. As just an example. And, having a remedy, so I guess my feeling would be is help as many, help the Canadian Cancer Society or the American Cancer Society or a specific cancer, throat cancer, lymphoma, whatever it might be, but help because you just never know when it's going to be one of somebody who you love, who's near and dear to you. And when it knocks on your door, we don't want them to knock on our door, the cancer genes. But when they do, know that we have better remedies and stronger remedies because of the donations, because of the support, because of the doctors and nurses working on the research.
Yes, yes. And I want to hope and believe that we are inching closer to finding more cures. I know we have had great developments, right? The cancers that were terminal in the past now have some treatments, which is great. So, yeah, if we can work towards finding more of those, that would be great.
And also the terminal ones that have a longer lifespan, like pancreatic cancer. Oh my God. It used to be like an immediate death sentence, and, people were most likely gone, let's say within a year, right? Today, I mean, who was it was it Ella Fitzgerald? No. Oh my God, they did the movie on her. Jennifer Hudson was her. RESVPT. Oh my
Oh,
God,
Aretha Franklin?
Aretha, thank you. She had pancreatic cancer. They kept her alive and going for over a decade. I mean,
Wow.
these are all beautiful, beautiful things because of you, the audience, who help and support whatever Cancer Society it is. So please help. And you'll find in the blog the link to the Cancer Canada, which is cancer.ca/en/. So please, whether it be this or your own, please support and help this issue, cancer. Thank you so much. All right. So self-love and happiness. We were going to touch upon that. We didn't touch upon it yet, but let's touch upon it now, how that works together.
So, as I said, so meditation, I believe, is that gateway practice that helps you to discover that there is a place within you that is always loving, at peace, and happy. And that when you connect to that love, it then helps you to realize all the ways that you may not be loving yourself the way that you need to. So, are you loving yourself mentally? Are you loving yourself emotionally? And are you loving yourself physically? Now, some of us think self-love is just some self-care, that, oh yeah, I get my hair done once in a while and my nails done. But then meanwhile, you're awful to yourself by calling yourself fat and ugly and dumb and worthless and all these other things. So getting your hair and nails done is not going to cut it. That's only taking care of our physical self. Or maybe we need to go to the doctors and we don't. Or maybe we need to be taking as you said, maybe watching what our food is, avoiding toxins, things like that. And so loving ourselves means looking at all aspects and ensuring that we are loving all of those. And so I could go on and on about self-love. And I mean, I think that could be a fantastic show to have with you another time, about really diving deep into what it means to love our spiritual self, what it means to love our physical, mental, emotional self. So but definitely when we connect to our spirit, it helps us to realize how we're not doing that in the other ways.
That is so true. And I'm a self-love expert. You're a happiness expert. And I will agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, because without loving yourself, without accepting yourself, and that's what the duality piece, because you not only have to accept and love, the Pollyanna part of you, which is the goody two shoes part, where you're kind and nice and all that, but it's the darker side that you have to, and I don't mean to have on all of you, but is supportive to you when you say, okay, so I'm cranky. We all get cranky. We're human. But instead of saying, labeling it as bad and treating it as bad, we are treating it as, oh, okay, so I'm going to give myself the space and grace to deal with my emotions and then to come back and check them to go to the other side again.
Yes, exactly right. That we can allow ourselves to feel into those instead of putting them in the closet or under the rug, saying, I don't have time for that right now. No, we need to allow ourselves to feel into that, because as spirit, we feel only bliss and love. But when we come here to earth, we have the opportunity to, as spiritual beings having a human experience, to feel a whole host of other emotions, which apparently we want to feel at times through heartache and challenge and adversity and all of that we want to come here and feel. And so we should allow ourselves to do that. But as you said, don't unpack your bags and stay there.
Right.
That feel into it, and then and then take those steps that you need to bring yourself back to who you really are, whatever those steps are for you.
It's so true. So just if you're tuning in right now, I'm talking to Teresa Greco, and Teresa is a happiness coach, a happiness life coach, 3-time best-selling author, Reiki Master. She is an educational technologies consultant and educator. So one of our listeners was asking who I'm speaking to. So I wanted to reintroduce Teresa, and we're talking about love and happiness and how, how to get your happiness on, I guess is a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Let's get our happiness on.
I love it. And so the last step then is following your bliss. And that means that we look within us first and allow our happiness to guide us towards those activities that make us feel good when we practice them, when those particular people or environments. So, being out in nature, for example, recognizing what you need to add to your happiness toolkit, that as you're mindful, you realize, wow, this song is making me feel really good. I should add this like to my playlist. Or this book or podcast feels really good. I'm going to turn to this when I need to pump myself up a little bit, and I need to remind myself of the truth of who I really am. That I have a whole bunch of different things: cooking, painting, drawing, exercising, could be walking your dog, playing with your kids, lots of different things. And so when we know that, then when you've had a hard day at work, then you want to make time. But a big part of the happiness thing is that oftentimes people are not making time to connect with the happiness inside of them. In that, if you're working 60 to 80 hours a week and you get home at the end of the week and you're like, my life sucks. Yeah, it does. Because how much time did you spend this week connecting to your happiness? You didn't. And so it's important that we make time to do those things, because the truth is, when our cup is full, it allows us to do all the things that we need to do for others effectively and with a smile on our face.
I love that. That is so true. And it goes also back to when you're doing what makes you happy, what makes your heart sing, it also keeps you in your state of bliss.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add one more little tiny thing to that. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Okay, Teresa, we only have a few minutes left. What would you like to share that I haven't asked you about? And you've got about 3 minutes to go, so I'm going to give you the platform.
Well, and I just wanted to pick out something that you said, actually, that in order for us to be happy, we must be happy with ourselves. And that requires us taking those steps in order for us to recognize that, to connect with that love within us, to practice all of those things, that accepting and loving ourselves unconditionally. So not, oh, I'll like myself more when I lose the 10 pounds. I'll
Right.
like myself more when I get that promotion at work. Oh, I'll feel better about myself when I find someone who loves me. Is that we are always whole, healed, and complete first. So I'm just going to say that again. We are all whole, healed, and complete first. There is nothing wrong with us. We are not too much of something. We are not too little of something. We are exactly perfect as we are in this moment. We are always doing the very best that we can with the knowledge that we have at this present moment. And that in the future, when we know more, then we might look back and say, oh, I wish I had done things differently. But you did the best that you could. Your parents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had at that time. And so if we give ourselves that grace to say we are always trying to do our best, and that we are perfect exactly as we are, and that is really the truth, and that is what we need to be telling ourselves on repeat.
And can I add one thing to that? And that is that spirit, most importantly, knows that you're a beautiful flame, you're a beautiful divine light, and you've come on this earth school for a reason to help, shift things that are going on here, or to reflect things, or to bring things out. But know that spirit never disses anyone. I think that's sort of like the best way of putting it. Teresa Greco, thank you so much for being a part of the show and sharing the information, your beliefs, and how you work with your clients as being a happiness life coach, because I can see where this is so powerful for so many. And on your website, which is Teresa with no H, Teresa Greco.ca, you can find more information about her 8-week program on Wait, I'll find it again. The Steps to Happiness, the 8-week group coaching program. Now, is this something that goes on indefinitely? Like it just, whenever you sign up, you can start and you go the route. Okay, so you don't have to wait for a start date. That's something I was going to ask and I had forgotten. But join Teresa with her 8-week program and find your happiness quote and just rise and rise and rise. It reminds me of Mercury, like when you hold Mercury in your hand and it gets hot, it just goes up. The same thing with happiness. It can work the same way. So thank you again for all you shared. I want to thank Bridget, my right hand, my left hand. Oh my God, what would I do without you and all your technical abilities? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your life, out of your day to be a part of this show. Whether you're watching it live or this is a listening platform, I am so grateful that you're here. If you like the show, please like it, subscribe to it, write a review. Let me know your thoughts. If there's somebody you'd like to see on the show or a topic you'd like to see covered that I may not have covered to date. So would love to hear from you. You can write to me at guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com or marla@mghealer.com. So thank you for that. I want to tell you that next week, my guest is Advante Showers. So Advante, I had met him actually the weekend I got my doctorate. He has a ministry in Louisiana. He is an entrepreneur. He's a go-getter on so many levels. But most importantly, excuse me one second. Most importantly, sorry, I just started a coughing jag. He is about his faith and the faith of his congregation. Oh my God, I've never had that happen before, but so please tune in next Thursday with my guest, Advante Showers. Okay, well, I still have to cough, so I am going to bid you adieu. As I do, as always, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it. Know that you are loved, not just by me and your family and friends, but by the thousands and thousands of beings on the other side who love you and want to see you succeed, who want to see you happy, who want to see you abundant and full and living the life you're divinely meant to live. The golden ticket, ask for what you need, talk to them so that they can conspire on your behalf because they don't have the free will to just step in because you're struggling. So if you're challenged, or even if you're not challenged, but you want more in your life, ask and you will receive. Okay, I will see you next Thursday. Excuse me. I apologize yet again. I will see you next Thursday. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and know how you're loved.